Hi guys, welcome back to the Wilderness channel. In this video today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the fire starting materials that I typically take on a hike. I like to take more than one way of making fire, more than one method, just as a backup, and it also sometimes is very helpful if I'm doing outdoor instruction. It makes it a little bit more interesting. I can show people things and different ways of making fire. And it's a nice exercise, and it's good for team building and teamwork, and it's a fun challenge. Now obviously a friction fire is possible, but it's kind of the last option generally, because usually when you want to have a fire going, it's usually wet and cold, and those are two bad combinations as far as getting a fire going, especially a friction fire. So I try to take as many options as possible. There are plenty of things you can do, but I'm going to just show you some of the things that I'll take along. Number one, a lighter. Okay, you can't go wrong with one of these. Okay, it can get wet, you can quickly just sort of blow it out, dry it a bit, and then use it virtually immediately. So essential to take one of these. Also, even if the gas is finished, the butane is finished, you can still use the flint on this to produce a spark, and you might be able to get something lit, especially something flammable, using the flint. So good to keep even if you've run out of gas. Okay, that's the first one. The next is going to be matches, any kind of matches. You can take matchboxes, of course. The problem is you've got to make sure that they're kept dry. So the best thing to do is take them in plastic bags or an airtight container. What I typically do is, if I have a container, I'll close the container and then I will tape around the edge. I usually use either Gorilla Tape, or I will use a insulating tape to seal it. That way your matches stay dry, and when you need them you can quickly open it up. The advantage of also having tape like Gorilla Tape around is that you can also take that tape off and use it for another purpose. For example, repairing a hole in a fly sheet, or repairing a hole in a boat. Okay, if you have an inflatable boat, or even in a tire, literally. Okay, so it's good to have a sealed container. Okay, and there are various kinds of matches. Some are just regular matches, so they would come they would look sort of like this. You can have a look here. Okay, that's just a regular match, nothing special about it. It's a safety match. Okay, it won't just spontaneously combust somehow. And then what I typically do is, if I'm going to put them in containers, I'll take the matchboxes and I'll tear off the sort of friction pad that's used for lighting the matches, and I'll put that in the container as well, so that I can just light the match off that. Okay, so that's a typical dry safety match, which is the most common match in most countries if you're going to be looking for matches anywhere. Okay, then I use various containers for keeping these in. This is one example. Just anything, that's small and plastic, and that can be sealed. I've got this container, which goodness knows what it contained. If you look inside here very carefully, you'll see those matches look slightly different from the regular matches. These are actually waterproofed matches, so they can get a little bit damp, and they should still light. Okay, it's kind of like a waxy layer on the tip, so that gives you some assurance against the weather. Okay, and so that's another example of matches that I've stored. These are very, very good. These are bottles for effervescent tablets. Sometimes I trip over my own tongue here, and I'll keep matches kind of in there, and I find they're pretty good watertight containers. Here's another one, and it's stuffed with matches, and you can never have too many matches, trust me. Okay, if you, for example, trying to get something going in the wind, very, very easy for matches to blow out in the wind. So you want to have a good supply of matches, especially in an emergency where you don't have any other way of making fire. Another container is something like this. You get sweet containers, or tablet containers that you can use. In this box here, I've got two interesting things here. I've got these matches, which are actually sort of storm matches, or matches for stormy, windy weather. So they're not just going to go out immediately. They're going to take a while. They're going to burn for quite a while, a few seconds, giving you enough time to light whatever it is you want to light. Okay, so those are storm matches. These you can get in camping stores. I got these, I think, at REI in the United States. And then this is a birthday candle. I take a few of these. This is something you could light and get going, and then use to light your fire. Also, you can drip the wax and burn the wax as well, which will help keep the fire going. You can drip the wax over wood, for example, a tinder that you've got on your fire. Okay, you can also place this right underneath all your kindling, and just let it burn until the kindling catches. So if you've got slightly damp kindling and you need to have a flame on there for quite a while, that's a good option. Okay, then I'm always collecting things. If I'm in North America, I will often, if I'm going on a hike, if I find a birch, I will peel some of the bark off the birch without damaging the birch, of course. Peel some of the outer bark off, and of course, anyone who lives in that part of the world will know it's a very, very good kindling for starting fire. It's got a lot of volatile oils, and it's great for starting fires. Another option, if you're in another part of the world, for example in Australia, a lot of eucalyptus trees, blue gums. Blue gums have highly flammable leaves, so because of the eucalyptus oil in them, so it's a good option too for getting fires going. You can make a huge bonfire with that. This is actually pine resin. It's kind of dried up and everything. I take this as well. I might use this to help start a fire. It's also very good for making torches. Okay, so if you want to make a torch, you can actually kind of melt this, boil it up in a cup, and then pour it onto cloth, which will then wrap around your torch. A stick, basically a green stick, which will use as your torch. So there's an example of something that I would take along. What I like about this little container that I have, though, is that it's kind of, it probably had some women's products in or something. It has a mirror on the inside. Okay, so I can polish this up. It's a little bit dirty right now, but it's a good option for a signaling mirror. So you want to have more than one use for many things that you carry, because you're carrying the weight. You might as well have good use out of it. And this is a good example. You can use the mirror for signaling in an emergency, but it also doubles up as a container for carrying matches or pine resin. Okay, the pine resin can also be used incidentally if you're making arrows. You want to add fletching to the arrows. Pine resin is one of the glues you can mix with charcoal, and it'll help with sticking the fletching, the feathers onto the arrow. So another good option. Okay, then these are, I've got a container of these. Okay, these are actually fire starters that I kind of made at home. What they are essentially is matches. Okay, and I've taken beeswax. I heated the beeswax till it melted, and then I dipped paper, and this is tissue paper and this is just newspaper, and I dipped the paper in the wax, and then I just wrapped it around these matches. And so I use these as fire starters, and what I would do is, if there's an emergency, I'll light the end and get it to start burning the wax. Once that gets going, sometimes there's a problem getting it going, but once it gets going, I've timed these. They can burn for up to 7 minutes, which is ample time to get a fire going. So I take these a lot. I might do a little short demonstration video a bit later about how this works, and maybe time it. Okay, another option is to actually just get cotton wool and Vaseline. Dip the cotton wool balls in Vaseline, and you can use those as fire starters too. So it's very, very effective. Then here we go, flint for making fires, okay, for generating sparks to make fires. Flints, I'll do a demonstration on how to use these. Also very good for getting an ember going. Very effective. I've lit a lot of fires like this, and I find if you're going to use something like this, you want to have grass. For example, if you're going to use that as your tinder, you want to use grass that is has very broad leaves. Okay, it seems, in my experience anyway, it seems to catch much more quickly than having you know, like grass stalks or something like that, even if it's dry. Okay, then for interest's sake, and you're not necessarily always going to be carrying this around, but this is potassium permanganate. You can get it in any pharmacy, and it's got little sort of brown crystals, purplish brown crystals. You can take this and you can mix it with crushed sugar, okay, very finely crushed sugar, which you can crush with the best rock. You could use a mortar and pestle if you got one, but the best rock would be something that like a rock that you find in a river that's very smooth, it's quite hard, has been eroded, so it's nice and round. You can grind the sugar on another rock, and then what you do is you mix the two, and then you strike it with the rock, and that spark is enough to get it going. It burns quite intensely for a few seconds. You can use, of course, the flint striker to produce a spark as well, to get it going. Then this is a knife, a Kershaw knife that I carry, pocket knife. It's my late brother's actually. And here we have a magnesium block. Okay, I always carry the magnesium block with me. The magnesium block has a flint striker here, so I've got a flint, well, it has flint here, and I've got a flint striker which I'll strike with. But what you do is you take shavings off this, very fine shavings. You make a little pile of the shavings or dust, and then you flick a spark onto it, and that'll produce a very intense, very hot flame, which won't last for very long, but it's ample time to get a fire going. So of course preparation's key, so you want to have your fire, tinder, etc., and kindling ready, so that once you get that flame out and going, you want to immediately have fuel to get the fire going properly. Okay, remember, fire doesn't like dampness, and it doesn't like wind. It likes oxygen. It doesn't like to be smothered, so you've got to keep all those things in mind, and of course you want to have dry fuel. Okay, so those are basically just a few of the options available in terms of things that you can carry on a hike. In the whole scheme of things, they're not too heavy. Its matches are fairly light. A lighter, this, the flint striker, etc., your knife with your magnesium block, all very light and essential things to carry along with you. So I'll show you in a few videos, 1 or 2 videos after this. Maybe I'll make a video on potassium permanganate, how to use that, and perhaps also a demonstration of how long these fire starters burn, and yeah, have a look at that. So thanks for watching, and hope to see you guys again soon.